Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. Let me just need a second. I think that would be better. I felt like shaking that cough. It's been plaguing me for months. All right. So we're continuing today in the book of Genesis, chapter 33. I just got to fix my camera here. It's all colored weird. There we go. And we're going to begin reading in chapter 33. I'm not going to go back to the beginning because we're really not going to touch on the story of Jacob and Esau anymore. That's pretty much, we just have a few things to deal with down here, and then we're going into the next part of the story. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and built him an house, and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padan Aram, and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent, at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar, and called it El Eloah Israel. It's close. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, and lay with her, and defiled her. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, or Dinah. And he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard it, and Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field. And Jacob held his peace until they were come. And Hamor the father of Shechem went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel, in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give him to wife. And make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get your possessions therein. Get your possessions therein. And Shechem said to her father and to her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes. And what shall ye say unto me, I will give? Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, Because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto them, We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this we will consent, in this will we consent unto you, if you will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. Then we will give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor, and Shechem Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came into the gate of their city, and communed with the men of their city, saying, These men are peaceable with us, therefore let them dwell in the land, and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters unto us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent to us, for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised, as they are circumcised. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and Shechem his son hearkened all that went out of the gate of the city. And every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of the city. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. And the sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, You have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number. They shall gather themselves together against me, and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, Should he deal with our sister as an harlot? And that's the end of that. We'll go to the next. That's the end of that. I don't think it comes up anymore. Nope. So Esau returned. Fine. Then Jacob journeyed to Succoth. It seems, if you recall in the story, Esau, had invited Jacob back and all this stuff. I don't think Jacob really ditched him. It's just, this is what happened, this is what happened next. The next part of the narrative anyways. You could see, this could, when he talks about, this could be after they have a party, whatever, it's not a complete story. Obviously, there's a little part, there's like, at this point, his kids are young. In the next chapter, his kids are carrying swords around and slaying whole cities of people. Okay, so we know they've grown up a bit. Some time has passed. Because what he does is, and this explains, he basically travels on, separates himself a bit from Esau. And then he goes on to Succoth, which is not called Succoth there. It's called Succoth because he made a tent there, because that's where he pitched his tent. Because Succoth meaning booths. The Feast of Tabernacles is the Feast of Succoth, I believe, right? And I'm not going to look that up. I believe that's correct. That's the kind of mistake I'm willing to live with. I make mistakes. Surely I do. And I'll just leave that. It's like, it's more important to be faithful to the truth about the gospel. And everything else, I hold in reverence the Lord's word, I do. But I hold it in such high reverence that I will submit it to the ultimate scrutiny, also, because I depend on it. And I can't allow anyone who is, well, it's impossible. Everyone knows. Not everyone knows, but I met a guy when I was doing a scripture song thing, and he was another scripture artist. I'm sure he's on YouTube somewhere. I forgot his name, of course, because I'm terrible like that. But he told me, he's like, well, I don't believe the last 5, 6, some number of verses at the end of Mark. He just absolutely doesn't believe they're part of the Bible. And there's good argument for that. I can take it either way. I just like to have my eyes open to know that there's a controversy there, So, anyways, when Jacob wrestled with the Lord, he wrestled with all his strength. The things God puts us to, we are to, whatever it is. We don't necessarily know what the purpose is, but we, whatever you do, do it with your might. So, Shalem, sounds familiar? That's peace. It's an early name of Jerusalem, according to what I looked up. I didn't want to have to sit. I quickly looked up. I knew last time I didn't have time to look up this stuff and to check. And they said that's Shalom or Shalom, and that means peace. It's an early name of Yerushalayim. it's a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, and when he came from Padan Aram and pitched his tent. See, it says when he came from Padan Aram. It's saying, when he, because like I said, we're done with Esau. As far as that whole part of that story goes, we don't have a new chapter, but we do have a new chapter. A new chapter in the story, not a new chapter in the Bible yet, but it's part of that. When he came from Padan Aram, after all this stuff, he journeyed, and where he settled was right in front of Jerusalem. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father. A city of Shechem, again, Shechem is this guy, but it's also, I believe, the region. I'm a little confused on that one, but it's all right. For 100 pieces of money, probably the word money is probably silver, because the word money and silver were often used interchangeably. Like silver meant money. Much as we said greenbacks, dollars. We don't mean like single dollar bills necessarily. We mean, or whatever. He erected there an altar and called it Eloah Israel. That means the mighty God of Israel. So that is what that means. So he built that altar there, and then we have the rape of Dinah. I thought it was odd that he said he was more honorable than the rest of his father's house. I suppose, relatively speaking. I mean, he took her and lay with her, defiled her. It sounds like rape to me, but again, it doesn't really explicitly say that. But the thing is, a girl being taken without her father's permission is, it would be considered already an offense. Look at when Jacob took a wife, the way they went about doing it. He went and served for 7 years for his bride. He went to her father first. He was in love with her, and he went to her father and says, "Give me her to wife." This Shechem, he just grabs her, takes her somewhere, and lays with her, and thereby defiles. That is a more technical term. Oh, I forgot. I was about to try to look it up on the internet. I ain't got internet. Well, I don't know when it's coming back. I've got supposedly something coming in the mail. God only knows if that's going to fix it. I'm not optimistic about that front. Okay, next chapter. Defiled her. I'm not expecting anything particularly. The word actually, it means to be bowed down or afflicted. Usually the word I remember from the Old Testament law was humbled. Like when it says there was a law in the law of Moses, if a man lay with a woman, a virgin, a young girl, whatever, of marriable age, I don't mean a child by any means, but if a man lay with a virgin, he had to marry her, and he could not divorce her because he had humbled her. And there was rules around that. Now, of course, only if she wanted him, by the way. She could say, nah. So there was a right of refusal on that part. If they said just because someone raped doesn't mean he gets to marry. You don't want to incentivize that. It's like, well, she's got to marry you now. No. You have all the obligation. And if they don't, he's got to pay. And actually, and that was not on a presumption of not rape even. Because it's, it's sort of like I said, it's like statutory rape in that she's not allowed to give consent. Because she technically is property of her father. And the idea of, it being a humiliation or something is because it conveys on a girl's status. I tell you, we have no idea. The women today don't value their status like they should. Because, it's like, but I mean, if you want, I look at it, most people do not. They're just anxious. Everyone's just so anxious to lose their virginity, or they don't care. They never consider it's like, yeah, the way I look at it is like I protect all my children's virginity because I know I want to deliver them to their spouses undefiled, as far as that goes. Not like I was. In part, I feel like I'm trying to, I'm making up for something that I thought was a deficit in my own upbringing. It was just something I've got to do. If they find it grievous or whatever, they can go and raise their kids different. But I never found anything being done. Nothing of my youth that I did not come to regret entirely. And so it is good to protect them from that. Um, you know, like I said, it's like even if she consents, it's rape. It's because, like I said, because she doesn't have the power of consent, as far as presumed here. Because especially in this culture, she's under the protection of her father. Now, in this issue, he falls in love with her, with Dina. And I say Dina, it's probably Dina, not Dinah, because the long I is a peculiarity of the English language. I'm just going to look it up. I don't know. I've always been saying Dinah. It sure looks like Dinah. Maybe it's actually Dinah. Because like I said, maybe it's supposed to be truly an I there. It's like in Italian, I's are pronounced E. And in most foreign languages, it is. Or a short I. What is it? Oh, of course, Dinah. Dinah. Dina. What is it? Dina. It's Dina, not Dinah. Phonetically, Dina. Right? We've been saying it wrong. The daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly to her. Well, it's like, at least he's not like, get out of here, get out of here, I'm sick of you. No, he's followed his passion. And maybe among the Canaanites, this is just, hey, you see a pretty girl, go have sex with her. If she doesn't scream and holler, it's not rape. I get it. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I get it. It's easy. I mean, because you can put it down to a pretty stark, hey, if you don't want it, then you better yell and scream. And then, I always told my daughter that, hey, if you don't want to have sex with someone, you have to fight physically. Don't just quietly and meekly say no. That's how girls get raped, because, and I do think it ought to be part of their responsibility. But unfortunately, girls are so, they're so void of fathers in their lives. They don't have any, and the fathers in the lives are often these weak, limp-wristed, just pathetic examples of manliness who couldn't give their daughters a word of instruction if their lives depended on it, and they do. It angers me on a personal level, I guess. But so I instruct my daughter, by all means, though I know no means no, supposedly, don't wait for that. Scream no, punch, scratch, and then if he cuts up rough, go for the eyes, the groin, save yourself. Don't be a victim, be a victor. That's why she knows how to wrestle. Because it's like, you better be ready. Take your head off. That's why, to me, it's like they've got to be ready. At some point, a girl's going to be alone with a boy. At some point. Or a man, maybe. Hopefully it's a man, right? Not boys and girls. But men and women, when it's appropriate as adults, they're going to be alone. And not necessarily for sex. The point is, the guy might think, oh, it's time for that. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's just time to get to know each other. You got to learn to be assertive. I know it doesn't come naturally. That's why fathers need to teach it. Yeah. I had someone in my life at one point who accused me of having a problem with strong women. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I have a problem with weak women who want to run for help all the time to the outside world instead of sticking up for themselves. What's like, you know what I mean? Like, I had trouble understanding what this person even meant by a strong woman. They meant themselves, actually. Oh, I gotta get that noisemaker. I married a strong woman, in my estimation, you know? Strong willed, you know? Not not pig headed most of the time. No, I'm kidding. But I'm just certainly strong willed, and I don't want someone who's just going to go along with everything. Sometimes I need some pushback. I like someone who has an opinion so I can get another perspective on things sometimes. That's important to me. You know, I do value other perspectives. I always have. Why, you know, that's the way I pursue the understanding of the scripture, even is to admit perspectives into the consideration that maybe are a bit out. You know, sometimes I wonder about it because I'm like, you know, I don't know if that's right. But I'll allow it because I want to arm myself against every eventuality. You can't protect your children forever, so you want to launch them into life as adults, able to handle themselves. Dad's not always going to be around. So, you know, I mean, do I fault Jacob? Well, you know, whatever. He doesn't know what I know. I understand more than the ancients because I have the scriptures before me. He didn't. He had some, you know, he knew he wasn't worthy of the truth God was giving him, whatever that was. Well, there's a natural truth. You know, he hath shown thee, O man, what he requires of you, but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with thy God. I mean, these are very simple truths that you can figure out with your conscience. Those of us that have one, you know, some people it's harder. You know, but it's not impossible for you know, the Lord chooses psychopaths too. You know, David Wood, look, check him out. You know, a confessed and diagnosed psychopath. You know, when I think about the opposite of me, you know, not that I think that there's some virtue in being, more virtue in being something the opposite of that. It's another, let's say, every gift comes with a potential to turn to evil. When you turn your gifts to evil, whatever they are, you know, and the things that are turned to evil can be turned back into gifts. Because you know, like I said, I watch that guy. He's turned that psychopathy into a gift and used it for good for the Lord. Very wise, shrewd. You know, and I don't care if that's the motivation. Like, oh, I wised up or whatever. I don't. You don't have to be emotionally moved into something. When your eyes are open, your eyes are open. The truth is the truth. Some feel it more. For others, it's not a feeling at all. So, Shechem wants to marry her, and Jacob hears this. Her sons were not, you know, he held his peace till they were come. He didn't say anything. He talked to them about it. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. Remember, so I don't know, I'm kind of understand it because it was like what the chronology is here, because he held his peace until they were come. Then, and the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. So they must have heard what they heard is that Hamor had come to commune with Jacob. And so they came, and they heard that, and I suppose then they heard, at least that's how it rings to me, and then they heard what happened. And they were grieved, they were very wroth, and that Shechem had wrought folly in Israel. Folly, I wonder what I mean by that. Foolishness? I'm guessing it's not foolishness. What is the word there? Because, the word is folly. Folly. Wrought folly. That's wrought folly. It often comes out like that, right? That phrase. He wrought folly in Israel. Come on. Do I just have no... Oh, there we go. Nebala. Remember Nabal? When we were doing Psalms, Nabal? I believe that was one of the words for foolishness. Yep. From now, it means senselessness or disgrace. Disgrace is probably the idea here. Disgraceful folly, especially sins of unchastity. It's used in Judges 19:23. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a disgrace. But it also can mean like a crime. Because it is, and then I think even the modern day, they would agree that what he did was criminal. You know? What we would consider that's rape. You know? I mean, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't say whether she consented, but like I said, I'm taking the view that, and at least in their, whatever estimation, she's under the protection of her father still. And therefore, it's not just for anyone to come up and lay with her. She's a damsel. Like it says, should they treat with our sister like a harlot? I mean, I gotta admit, I've always had sympathy with this chapter with Levi and Simeon. I know, I understand. It's an interesting chapter because you see the difference between Jacob and his sons a bit. His sons are a bit rough. I mean, you see what they end up doing to Joseph, But, in particular, these Simeon and Levi, woo. So, the king of Hamor, the father of Shechem, he wants to, he says, the soul of my son longs for your daughter, let him marry her. He's in love. This is the kind of thing, Very often, it's interesting in the Bible because it's like not all the marriages are talked about in terms of love, like the way Isaac loved Rebekah and Jacob loved Rachel. Leah was not particularly beloved, but he did his duty. And it's not her fault or his fault either. It's just because Laban did it to them. But she makes out well and has all those children. So give your daughters into us and take our daughters to you. You're saying, let's become one people, man. Now, the one thing I know is that I don't know what Jacob was thinking. I'd like to know. What do you think? I guess he doesn't know about Canaan and about the doom that's been pronounced on Canaan, the people. The Jebusites, the Perizzites, all these people. They are to be destroyed, ultimately. It's genocide in the Bible? Yeah, it's genocide. It says all these people are to die. That's what happens. What happened to the Neanderthals, huh? What'd you guys do to them? What did we do to them? Right? Where are the Denisovans? All kind of evaporated. Cain rose up against his brother and slew him. What happened? So they say, hey, let's become one people. Now, remember, both Abraham and Isaac both were very specific. Don't take daughters from among the Canaanites. Don't take a wife from among the Canaanites. Remember when Rebecca was like, Rebecca, when she was like talking about Esau's wife, how she was like ready to pretty much die because of that. I'm just the grief brought about by the ungodly. So Jacob's going to allow this wholesale union to go through. What are you thinking, Jacob? Give us marriages. We're just a bunch of rapists. Why don't you marry with us rapists, and we'll marry you, and we'll become one big rapey family. We'll give you our daughters, you give us your daughters, right? Dwell with us. The land will be before you. dwell and trade, get possessions. Of course, they're thinking, yeah, we'll get all your possessions. At least that's what he says. I don't know what he means by that. What he's saying is like the wealth of this person will be added to us. He'll be one of us. We'll have this wealthy man who's come. Jacob, like Abraham and Isaac, is swelling to like a petty king. It's interesting, though. We're going to talk about more about this. Let's see how much time we got. Okay, we're only halfway through. And so Shechem says to her father, to her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, mercy. And what shall you say unto me I will give? Tell me what, I'll give it to you. Let me find grace. Jacob was I know what Jacob's thinking. He's thinking of, boy, when I really wanted mercy, it was there for me. So he's thinking, possibly. I'm just saying, you might be thinking that. It makes me think that. Ask me never so much dowry and gift. Then with no price too high. And I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife. He is very fond of Dinah. And so the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully. All right, that explicitly says so. Other times, other things like with Laban and stuff, it doesn't even say deceitfully, but because you could argue that a lot of stuff Laban got up to was sort of seat of the pants. Didn't sit around musing on evil. He just sort of slipped into it. But right here, they are answering this. They already know what they're thinking, because they don't mean because he had defiled Dinah. They answered him deceitfully because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. Which means to humble or to call, meaning they had, the way he had taken her was dishonorable. He did not take her to wife. He did not come and propose marriage. He did not come and, and negotiate this, which would be the custom. Certainly it was Jacob's custom and the custom of his family. Whenever he went to take a wife, he always asked permission. He was just go around dipping his member into any old girl he could find along the way that tickled his fancy. Though, Judah ends up doing that, but that actually is a different story and not quite the same. Okay, so when they said, well, we can't do it. We can't give our sister to someone who's uncircumcised. And this is a deceitful answer because, why is it deceitful? It's not untrue. Not untrue, by the way. Everyone had to be circumcised. And that part is true, but what's the deceit? Well, the deceit is what follows that. But in this we will consent to you. If you will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, then we will give your daughters unto you, we will take your daughters unto us, we will dwell with you, we will become one people. That's the deceit. They never intend to do that. And they should never have offered it. And I don't know why Jacob even lets them offer that, because I don't think he's willing. Jacob maybe had in mind something different. I don't know, maybe some sort of, there could be like there's in the law. They could pay, if she didn't want to marry him, they could levy a fine. No, as far as that's future law, but I'm just saying it would be probably customary also for him to demand. He has to demand something. Like to even, you can't just put your tail between your legs and then let that go. Right? There is a better way, at least in the context of this. Obviously the best way is Shechem should have asked permission, but he probably wouldn't have been granted. So keep your, one more reason to keep your buddy in your pants. because things can go really bad. You know, Shechem got himself into big trouble fornicating. You don't know who. I knew a kid who's a friend of my brother's who was murdered. This kid was murdered on the front lawn, just somebody's house, because he called somebody's sister. I think it was a bitch. It was just a simple, simple insult. And her brother was inflamed with rage over that and knifed him, and he died for calling a girl a bad name. There may have been other things. He was involved with her. That's what you don't in romance. If you're going to get killed, going to do it. It's going to be your spouse. That's on average. Husbands kill their wives, and wives kill their husbands. We kill people close to us. Unfortunately, I think that like most murder is not like some stranger comes up to you and pulls the trigger. Just blows you away. That's thankfully rare. A lot of murder happens in the family. People are often murdered by people they know. It's just what happens. And so, same thing with sex and all that stuff. It is a potent and powerful part of the human condition. Sexual attraction, attachment, due to sexual contact. Having sexual contact can result in a strong attachment to someone. Same way pornography sucks people in. It's addictive. People are like that too. Shechem is blinded by love. He does not see the deceit with which he's being dealt with. He does not realize that they're basically planning to get you all weak and wounded so they can come in and just murder every one of you. And I understand that impulse. God knows I've had fantasies about not exactly murder. Well, I do, of murder, sure. When I think about anyone harming one of my family members, if I could get that person in my power, I prefer that to having them caught by the police. I want them in my power. I want to catch them. If I had to endure such a thing, I want to catch them in the act so I can dispatch them right there. That's fantasy feelings, but it's understandable. I mean, we have laws to punish such things, right? Because it's not, you come into a house and find someone raping your family or whatever, it's like, nobody thinks that should be allowed. So if you lose your mind and pummel them to death, it'd be hard to prove that even murder, because it would just be, because it's not premeditated, that's for sure. It's like the red mist descended and I don't remember anything else except just raw rage. I get it. But this is kind of cold, man. 3 days and all that. Everybody dies, too. Not just the guy guilty. That's a bit much. But I see the point. How could we do... I see the point, though. Like, we can't just kill Shechem and Hamor. They've got people surrounding them. If they kill the king or the leader, I'm not sure. I think he was called king, right? No, he's prince, right? Which is a similar thing. If you just smite them, then the people will come after you. And of course, Jacob is careful, also notices, and you know what? There's more Canaanites around. Get wind of this, they're going to gather themselves together against me, and they're going to take care of us. Possible. That's one fear. You gotta be as we are. Every one of you has to be circumcised. And we'll do right, just like you are. One people. If you will not do this, then we will take our daughter and we will be gone. That's probably what Jacob wants to do. The words pleased Hamor, Shechem, Hamor's son, and the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter. He was more honorable than all the house of his father. It's honorable. What do you mean there, I wonder? Probably means honorable. I'm just curious if it's like a word that maybe got translated a little bit. Maybe that would be a little slightly better than honorable. Maybe it's specific. There's a little more specificity there than honorable maybe gives us. Or in what sense Because, in some ways, I'm like, okay, I guess more honorable, for a Canaanite, for a heathen, like I said, they talk about things like rape culture. It's like, I don't have a lot of sympathy for guys who rape. I have zero, honestly. But, I like to, I like to show mercy even to people, and I mean, when I say it, I mean in the light sense. I mean in the sense of like, well, she didn't put up a fight or anything, and, you know, I could tell she didn't enjoy it, but I did, that kind of thing. And they don't, they're not going to tell on you and all that stuff. Just get away with it. I don't have a lot of sympathy for those guys. And honestly, yeah, I don't. And so, because I'm not capable of such things. It's the snobbishness of my nature. I don't like to be snobbish. Like some things you struggle with, some things you don't, right? I've been alone in a room with girls who were sleeping. I didn't touch them. You know what I mean? They were drunk. I've had girls passed out around me when I was younger and stuff. Never touched them. Not a finger. Couldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Didn't want to. I always, as I like to have, I like my wife to want to be with me. That's nice. It's nice when someone is pleased to be with you in an intimate way, right? Ideally, we'd be doing with someone who's reluctant or scared, but not actively resist. It's like, I don't know. I suppose you enjoy a corpse. So my sympathies lie strongly with Simeon Levi on this one. But it's not right. But what they do, though. What Shechem did was wrong. But what they did was just far too, it was overkill. I mean, literally. Overkill, literally. Um, what is the word? He deferred, more honorable. There we go. He was more honorable. Kabod. Heavy, weighty, or burdensome. That usually means honorable. He had more gravitas. That's what we say. And because the idea means weight, heaviness. I'm going to say someone's a big man. He's big. He's got a big heart. He's, be the bigger man, so to speak, meaning like, don't take the low road. And certainly he is trying to make good what he's done. You know what I mean? I mean, it's somewhat selfish because he loves her. He's not just like, oh, okay, I'll marry her, but I don't want to. She's kind of ugly. I just thought I was drunk and whatever, and she's, I want to see her in the daytime. And... No, I mean, he has a desire to make it, at least, and his desire will make things should be okay, right? We get married and we just forget about the whole rape thing and should be my wife. He wants to, in his mind, he thinks he's just doing the right thing. He's been with a lot of girls, but this one he wants to marry, or whatever. I don't know. It just seems that you don't just up and do that, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't just happen. You just, one day I was just walking along and I just raped. Yeah. No, and a lot of times it comes from powerful people. Like the son of the mayor's son is the one who's going to be raping the girls in the park, of course. And very often it's because they get this, people who are, attached to power often feel they're invulnerable, like the rules don't apply, like they apply to the rest of us. Just like our president's son. He's like a good old Shechem running around, doing everything that moves. Why? I mean, because he's used to the privilege of being able to get away with everything he wants to. And we let that happen in this country. It's too bad. I mean, really, it's astonishing. It's not sure what to do about it. There's things to be done. We can speak against it. What can be done ultimately? I don't know. But, anyways. He didn't defer, he didn't wait, he didn't pause, he didn't take some time off to think about it. No, he went and did it right away. And I think just saying he's more honorable than all the house of his father, it's just saying that, like, among the house of Hamor, the young man was the most honorable. He was. He wasn't, Hamor wasn't exactly a moral bastion of, the Canaanites, the people who brought us Sodom and Gomorrah. You say, well, and again, Sodom and Gomorrah, it's not just like, oh, they were gay. That's not that. Then there'd be Sodoms and Gomorrahs all over the place, all throughout history. That we've had gay people and stuff like that. No, 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 no. They had a totalitarian state in which, yeah, it was like, I'm coming out with a song about it actually. It's done. Got to release. I'm thinking about some stuff with the cover and. But it's a totalitarian state. Their sins were pride, fullness of bread, abundance of idleness, and every wickedness was in her. Yeah, it was gay, but there was not just this was beyond just like, the guys living down the street who, they look a bit soft but keep to themselves. They're not out, they're not messing with the kids or, you know what I mean? Like they're just quietly sinning in their own life like the rest of us. Like I try not to make my idiosyncrasies the business of everybody else, or to try to make everyone else accept me. Because people already accept you. Oh, they do? You mean if I went around constantly like identifying myself as a Christian teacher and making a lot of noise about everything I saw that I didn't like or whatever, that people would accept that? No, it's because it's totalitarian. The whole society must participate. It's not enough that you can't just tolerate it. You have to celebrate it. That's a totalitarian society, and that is Sodom. You combine immorality with totalitarianism, you get Sodom, and God will destroy it. Period. It can come to nothing but destruction. It's not about just that sin. Yeah, it's part of it. I mean, but it's not. That's not the show. That's just the sideshow. So, anyways, they went back to their city, communed with the men of the city. These men are peaceable with us. Hey, they're peaceable with us. They have been so far. Up till the rape of one of them, until they raped their sister. And, but they're still talking nice. They didn't see through the deceit. So let's let them dwell and trade, and it's large enough for them. Let's take their daughters to us for wives and we'll give them our daughters. The king is proposing this. Only hearing this is the only way they'll consent to it is if we be one people. If every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. And you know what? I don't know that this is not acceptable. I've said it been like the Lord is going to put the Canaanites. It's like, but here's the thing. It's not about just Canaanites. And I still don't think this would work, okay? And I'll tell you why. But because it's like, I'm sure there are Canaanites in the line. You know what I mean? Like the idea that everyone who descended from Canaan is to be destroyed. That's not how it even goes, right? Cursed be Canaan. Canaan was cursed, but I said the curses of things like this, as the prophet Ezekiel said, the parents don't eat a sour grape and the children's teeth are set on edge. That was a proverb. They used to say the parents have eaten a sour grape and the children's teeth are set on edge, which means the sour flavor ends up in the mouth of the children. Because meaning that they suffer for the sins of their parents. That's not really the case. We do suffer from our parents' sins in some senses. One, in that they inflict this suffering on us in some ways because we have to, and if we have to endure it. But if we continue in their ways, we will be as responsible as they are. We have an opportunity. I grew up and I looked at the things my parents did in raising me, and I judged some of them that they were not good, that they in some ways made some major mistakes, and it cost me. I forgive them, I do, but I don't take that information lightly. I use that information to inform myself in how I raise my own children. Also remembering that in part of their mistakes was an overreaction. My dad overreacted to the way he was raised by raising me going too far. Like women are evil is not the answer to the problem. Because we put it, stay away from women. They're evil. They're nothing but trouble. Don't ever have anything to do with women. That was and it was kind of a joke. I knew that, but there was no follow-up real advice. And I don't know how he could have advised me, because honestly, my own mother was hell-bent. So it was like he hadn't exactly gotten it right the second time either. But here I am, so, we all come from someplace. And that's the thing. My father was raised in wicked ways. He did not follow his wicked ways. But he tried in raising me to deliver me from those ways. But he failed to completely deliver me. Though he helped me probably more, I had a better time of it than he did. So I'm grateful for the effort. That's good. And we should all be grateful for the effort our parents put in to do what they could do that was right. Right? But that doesn't mean I just take that. I'm going to take that information and use that to do an even better job with my children. So that, one, I don't have to continue in the sins of my fathers. None of us do. But if we just carelessly do, then we will reap the same reward. God doesn't just hate Canaanites. It's not a racial thing. Any of them, when they would turn from their wicked ways, could be received of God. Out of every nation, those who fear God and love righteousness are accepted of him. God will accept you and he'll call you and bring you to Jesus. He does. So it's not like the Canaanites are just out of bounds. And besides, there's no law, really. It's like an instinct. Abraham would not give any of his sons to wife from the daughters of Canaan. And so also, or the Hittites weren't even Canaanites as far as I know, so I forget about that. I'm not so good at those things. I forgot the Hittites were, if they were. They're in the area, though. Their empire is more in Asia Minor, or what we would call Turkey. They disappear at the end of this period of time. Well, the time when the famine and Joseph, that's the collapse of the Hittites, I think, around that time. Or in the next, century, or over the centuries until the Exodus and all that. Because the world kind of goes into a dark age at that time. It does not, a lot of people don't understand how the ancient world unfolded. But, so, it's not that he gave them space to repent. That's another thing. It's like after so many transgressions, after the transgressions come to the full, that really it comes to pass. Once you get into child sacrifice and all this stuff and the evils come to a head. It's one thing to be willing to lay down the most precious thing. Because like I said, it's easier to lay your own life down than lay down the life of your child. Right? And to accept you become hardened against it. You don't understand. Like the way people feel about abortion in our country. I mean, it's just... I saw this comment, someone said yeah, if they banned abortions, it would impact real lives. I'm like, yeah, because babies aren't real lives, apparently, I guess, right? And, like I always said, if it's a medical necessity, absolutely. But We're not talking about medical necessity most of the time. It's just, it's just birth control. That's all they're doing, birth control. I think they prefer abortion to birth control because you get the baby parts to sell. You know, for skin products. Mm. So some of their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Just in the sense of like, here's the thing, like when it's not, I don't think they mean we're gonna steal it. What they mean is like they have a lot of animals and like that'll be part of us. They'll be part of us and that'll be ours too. I mean, because like Jacob's strength will become part of their strength. Just like when he was with Laban. Laban didn't want him to go. Jacob's presence would mean blessing. Only let us consent to them, and they will dwell with us. So that and he may be exaggerating to convince them. This is a great thing. It's not just my son's lust we're trying to satiate. No, we're all gonna get rich over this. Maybe a bit of BS on his part, huh? So they listened, all that went out of the gate of the city. Every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of the city. That's obviously some sort of idiom, right? All that went out of the gate means what? You know, those who lived in the city, meaning they had to go out. Some people, if you lived outside the city, you had to go into the gate of the city. You had to enter in the morning. So to speak, you'd have to int. But those who issued forth from the city are those who belong to the city. So he may have dominion over maybe the surrounding lands, and perhaps the farmers that maybe live out there or could answer to Shechem and to Hamor. But they're not involved in this because it's the city itself. It's just that's where he has the greatest influence, at least for something like this, I suppose. You're going to go around to the farmers and ask them all to circumcise. It's just if he gets the city to do it, that's pretty much it. And then here's the thing. That would be what is required. If remember when Abraham, it was like not just him, but all his servants. And his servants weren't Jews. Like I said, Jacob has a lot of people with him already, and he's going to end up with a whole lot more because he takes all the Canaanite women and children for servants. And some of them probably end up, like I said, it's not about the genes. It's about the culture. That's what the ban against the Canaanites. You can't become one with them as a people. But that is not to say I've talked about something I heard about when you breed rabbits, you bring the doe to the buck. You know what I mean? And there's some truth in that. Because a daughter is going to tend to cling to her mother, I think, a bit stronger. And often this is the case. It depends. Depends on the mother-daughter relationship. But sometimes that's a very strong relationship, right? And into the marriage, that's why mothers-in-laws on either side can become a real problem. Because especially if the child has an attachment problem and isn't properly letting go of that relationship, not to end it, but like you can't be closer with your mother than you are with your spouse. You know what I mean? And you're supposed to be leaving one family and coming to another. That's why women take the male name. And also, but not just that, actually the most important part is because it connects the child to the father. I mean, otherwise, there's no obvious connection. This makes a lot of sense for to take on the name of the father. At least the child should, anyways, right? I mean, I understand why some women they've made a name of themselves as single people, and then to change their name maybe midlife is hard. I don't care. I think more about that's like midlife marriages are different. You know what I mean? And it's just different. At least I would regard it as different. I mean, it's good to start off young. Anyways, so my point about the Canaanites is that it's not that they're irredeemable, but their culture is, and so But this circumcision could be seen as a first step in turning to the God of Jacob. But they're not coming. That should be the proposal, I suppose. Maybe that's acceptable. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's certainly not what happened. Let me just fix that. We're almost done. Here we go. Obviously, what ends up happening is what we've already read. They go through with their swords while they're all tender and sore, and they do the business. This is like I said, this is that fantasy, the rage fantasy. How dare you touch my sister, right? So they slew Hamor. So the killing was all done by Simeon and Levi. And that's Dinah's brother, her closest brothers. So, I get it. And, that's their little sister. And so they came upon the city, they took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly. They weren't messing around. We're here for one purpose. Slew all the males, all of them. For Shechem's sake, my God. I couldn't, that's too much for me. I understand it, like I said, but it's just too much. I understand why they would want to kill Shechem. I understand how they had to kill everyone. Because if they don't, someone might take revenge. Jacob's still worried about that. I don't know, like you do something like this, people might not mess with you, Jacob. That's the thing. They might band together against you, or they might just say, you know what, we'll just take that as an object lesson. We're not going to, we'll just keep apart and try to, hopefully we don't have to get, into a fight with Jacob and his bloodthirsty sons. It doesn't necessarily, people, they may band together or they may be scared poopless about hearing about this. That the whole city was slain. Who's going to tell anyways? And they did all the killing. They took Dinah out and went out, and then the rest of the sons came upon the slain and they spoiled the city. In revenge, because they had defiled their sister. The whole city gets blamed for what the Shechem did. It was his sin alone. And they took their sheep, their oxen, their asses, and that which was in the city, which was in the field. They took everything that belonged to those people. I guess it wasn't a huge city. There was probably a couple hundred men. And going from house to house. I don't know. It's a funny thing because it's the kind of thing you don't think would be written down if it wasn't true. Why would they write a story about their ancestors like this? It's not told as a glorious tale. It's a sordid tale. So it's a sordid tale. Gotta protect your daughters. That's the thing. They go out in the field and then, I don't blame Jacob for that. All their wealth, all their little ones, and their wives took they captive. They didn't murder the whole lot of them, the men they killed. They took the captive, the wives, and their children. Spoiled even all that was in the house. Took everything. Everything that was worth taking. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have troubled me to make me to you're going to make me, I'm going to be like, you know what I mean? Like something stinks. They're like when you ever had a dead mouse in the house? You're like, something stinks, right? Where is it? Where is that little corpse moldering down to dust? Where is it? When you have a stink in the house, usually you go looking for it so you can clean it up. Well, that's what Jacob said. You're going to make people band together to figure out where I am and then get rid of me. You've troubled me to make me stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves. I'm not He isn't exactly Abraham. Like I said, he's becoming bigger. They just took out a lot more women and children anyway. That's not exactly improving his like military strength. Among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me. And I shall be destroyed, I and my house. This is what he fears. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. I'll spoil it right now. Doesn't happen. Like I said, I think he miscalculates. Actually, yeah, they made you to stink, but they had the other response, which was, let's get away from this thing that stinks. I mean, because they're of a noxious sort of like, ooh, I don't think I want to have anything to do with that smell. And they said, should he deal with our sister as an harlot? I understand. Should he deal? So his whole kingdom has to be destroyed pretty much. It's a bit overkill. That's not right. They were deceitful, and what they did was pretty wicked, as far as I'm concerned. Like, God had not commanded. There's no evidence here. I know later on, I don't know, these Canaanites in this city in particular, Shalom, Jerusalem. So I guess that's when the Jebusites move in. Or not. I don't know. So there we go. Chapter 34. All right, we'll begin in chapter 35 next time. Like I said, it's going to be an entirely new thing. He's going to say, oh, go live somewhere else. And we'll talk about chapter 35 tomorrow. Actually, Monday. Maybe I'll have my internet back by then. I'd like to do this live. The thing is, I've been doing live for so long, it feels live. I don't feel like it's not. I guess I'm able to hypnotize myself and feel comfortable, even though it's not, even though it's being pre-recorded. And so I could go back and fix things that I didn't do right, but I'm not going to, thankfully. Because that would mean we never get hardly through anything. So I'm thankful that we can do the study. So such as it is. So till next time.